Good evening and welcome to tonight's Undaunted, bringing to the news on 12 stars. I am Onyi Okbala. Let's begin. Nguti residents decry years of neglect as basic services remains exclusive in Nguti. Life remains a daily struggle for residents who face nearly a decade of neglect, crumbling infrastructure, and the absence of basic services. No reliable electricity, no running water, and roads that are often impassable have left communities isolated and struggling to survive. As the Colonial Senior Divisional Officer prepares to visit the area on the 26th and 27th of March to review third developmental project, locals say little has changed despite promises and allocated funds. A bulldozer purchased for the community has reportedly never been delivered, and other essential projects remain incomplete. For the people of Southern Cameroons, life daily is defined by hardship, as access to education, healthcare, and basic amenities continues to be a distant dream. This chronic neglect shows a broader crisis across Ambazonia, where communities watch allocated resources vanish while public services remains out of reach. Residents warn that without urgent intervention, the struggle for survival in southern Cameroons will only grow more desperate. All these and more will delve on tonight's Undaunted, but first let's get the prime headlines. Poverty and drive shocking fake kidnapping scheme in Ambazonia. Tonight, residents of Nguti decry years of neglect ahead of administrative visit. Supreme Court Quashes appeal court verdict against Nera 10 orders fresh hearing. 4th year dead in fatal road accident in Santa as safety concerns mount in the Cameroons. DR Congo and Rwanda agree on new steps to ease tensions after Washington talks. U.S. judge orders Trump administration to reopen Voice of America on the global scene. Now let's get the news in full briefings. Authorities in southern Cameroons have uncovered an unusual and troubling case that is now sparking wider conversation about poverty, youth unemployment, and social pressures. According to reports from Canal 2, gendarmes in the southern Cameroons apprehended a young woman identified as Julieta Owane for allegedly staging her own kidnap in an elaborate scheme to extort money from her family. Investigators say Owana orchestrated a fake abduction and instructed accomplices to demand a ransom of 6 million francs from her parents to make the situation appear real. The group reportedly used fake blood and staged scenes of torture, which were captured in a 30-second video sent to the family as proof of life. Alarmed by the footage, the family contacted security forces. The gendarmerie quickly launched an investigation tracing the origin of the video to Ebola. Officers reportedly found Owana alive and unrestrained, casually interacting with the very individuals she had presented as her kidnappers. During interrogation, she allegedly confessed not only to the staged kidnappings but to also having carried out similar schemes in the past. In one instance, she reportedly deceived the benefactor, commonly referred to as a sugar daddy, into paying 250 francs on the false pretenses. Authorities also revealed that the accomplices recruited are known for staging fake kidnapping, suggesting a small but organized network behind such scams. While the incident has drawn public outrage, it has also ignited a broader debate about the socio-economic conditions driving such behavior. Cameroons, like many countries, continues to grapple with high youth unemployment, raising living costs, and limited economic opportunities, particularly for young men and women. Analysts say these pressures can push some individuals to most desperate and illegal means of survival. The growing influence of the war in Ambazonia and also social media, where displays of wealth and luxury lifestyles are often glamorized, may further intensify the desire for quick financial gain. This is not just a criminal issue, it reflects deeper structural challenges. A local sociologist noted when young people feel locked out of legitimate economic pathways, some resort to risky and unethical alternatives. Authorities have reiterated that such actions remain serious criminal offenses, warning that those involved in fraudulent schemes and extortion will face prosecution. At the same time, civil society groups are calling for more robust investment in job creation, education, and social support systems to address the root causes of such incidents. As the investigation continues, the case of Julieta Owana stands as both a cautionary tale and a reflection of the economic hardships confronting many young people in the southern Cameroons. Barrister Mbeseha, welcome to tonight's Undaunted.
Thank you for having me.
All right. The case of a self-planned kidnap. It's scary where and how she planned to make such money off her parents. How is that? Well, although the report so far has said to be as a result of joblessness, economic stagnation and all of that amongst young people, but is that enough excuse? Barrister, let's get your thoughts.
No, there's not an excuse. What in particular, in general, and in Ambazonia in particular, there's the problem of joblessness. There's general poverty. There's generalized suffering. But is that the reason why you should create a scheme to collect money from yours? And so no matter the degree of poverty, not the standard of law, that does not justify faking a kidnapping to get money. In itself is false alarm, which is punishable. Getting money from people on that ground extortion, which is criminal, it is not allowed. And so the injustice. One thing that people do, the text of poverty, in the pretext of war. War before man. Yeah, she's faking enough money from her parents. We have said here many times before, even guys, you should not be allowed to turn yourself into a prostitute just because you're having hard times to get fast cash. All those things are social crimes that are not acceptable. Prostitution itself is a crime. Faking your kidnap to get money from people is an extortion, which is not allowed. It should never happen in Ambazonia. It should never happen anywhere. And so this is just sort of bankruptcy. This guy knows where the parents have the money. The parents can afford money that she wants to extort from them. Then they pay badly to do. Shift on the living. And so by every standard, all those things should be condemned. They are unacceptable in the world. They are unacceptable in Ambazonia. Over to you.
So much, Barrister. Also tonight, we'll take a look at what is happening in Nguti in Kupe Munanguba, where residents have raised serious concerns over what they describe as nearly a decade of abandonment, lack of development, and alleged mismanagement of public funds by local authorities. The outcry comes ahead of a scheduled visit by the Colonial Senior Divisional Officer on the 26th and 27th of March, during which several development projects in the area are expected to be reviewed. Community members say that aside from the purchase of a bulldozer, which they claim has never been presented or put to use in the community, none of the promised projects have been executed. Residents also argued that basic infrastructure and services have remained stagnant, leaving the population to struggle without meaningful government support. Frustration has also been directed at the mayor, Tong George, who recently returned to the municipality after reportedly spending approximately 9 years operating from Boya, where the council's activities had been relocated. Locals claim that despite the prolonged absence of the council from Nguti, the mayor has resumed operations and is now demanding payments for building permits, including for structures erected during the years when the council was not physically present in the community. Residents further lament the lack of essential administrative services, noting that obtaining key documents such as birth certificates requires traveling to Bangem, the divisional headquarters. This, they say, places an additional financial and logistical burden on already struggling families. The people of Nguti are suffering and feel completely abandoned. There has been no development for years, yet funds are allocated. They are questioning where the money goes to. The situation has fueled accusations of embezzlement and poor governance at the local level, with many residents expressing anger that despite these grievances, the mayor is reportedly seeking re-election for a third term. And anticipation builds ahead of the Colonial SDO's visit. Residents say they hope the inspection will bring accountability and renewed attention to their community needs. Many are calling on higher authorities in their Cameroons to investigate the claims and ensure that development funds are used transparently and effectively. For the people of Nguti, the upcoming visit represents a real opportunity to have their voices heard after years of perceived neglect. Barrister, you can imagine a leader, a ruler, ruling far away for a very long time, and yet collect taxes and funds are being allocated to help development projects in the area, and yet he rules from very far away, and all of a sudden he's returning, and the people are not really comfortable with his returning. What do you think is the situation, and what is happening at this point? Why do you think that the Colonial SDO is deciding to return at this point? What do you think?
Well, it's a little bit more complex than that. The Colonial SDO has nothing to do there. He has absolutely nothing. He's a chef de terre. It is not he who allocates money for road construction. In fact, he doesn't even oversee those projects. And so what I can say is happening in Kupema, Nguti, and other parts of Ambazonia, they are self-inflicted wounds. These self-inflicted. Remember, Cameroon just coming out of an election cycle. They were elected president. The Cameroon system is presidential. Everything comes down from the presidency. That called Kupema Negoba, under which was created in 1992. There has never been an inch of road there. And of course, during the last presidential elections, in Nguti, just like in other places, including the BLM, we saw elites, senior government officials from Yaoundé, parading the streets or the bushes of Kupema Negoba, including Nguti, claiming that that was the hometown, that was the place for which Paul Biya deserves to win. And whether they voted or not, he won. They gave him the vote and accompanied the vote back to Yaoundé to their comfortable offices and sat there. And so what do they expect this mayor to do? The mayor has nothing. He doesn't even have a cutlass. Talk less of a bulldozer you're talking about. The mayors in Cameroon have nothing because all the money must come from Yaoundé. And so the people of Kupema Negoba, they are the people of any other place in Ambazonia, including the BLM, Manu, other places that you can mention, have the government they deserve. They refuse to vomit out these people. The mayors, they are saying they are seeking new elections to be voted into office. Of course they would, because they are all CPDM people. What is their balance sheet for the time, last 5 years they've been there, or 7 years or more? There's no balance sheet, and of course they will win. And so are they these single people called councillors and mayors, called ministers and directors in Yaoundé? Are they stronger than the larger population of Kupema Negoba? Are they stronger than the larger population of Nguti? Certainly not. And so when they turn up with the crates of beer, what is development in the first place? You drinking beer? You see those people standing on the road there with their hoes. How can you dig a road with a hoe and a cutlass in 2026 or 2025 or first in 21st century? Is what is above Cameroon government just to buy a tractor to pull away that man from that place? No. And therefore you see the poor people suffering there. What can they do in that misery? Nothing. But we have offered them an olive branch. Join us and seek for Ambazonia. In Ambazonia, those roads will be done. If they are not done, someone will be held accountable for it. We have said that they have given money and it has never. Then what happened to the people who did not use the money? They went free because they have connections on top right over there. The people are digging gutters. See, they attempt even to put whatever thing, a covert with their bare hands. It's pathetic. Ambazonia should never have been this. In southern Cameroon, we had a pool of equipment. PWD was just what? Then, within the councils, Kupema Negoba, like any other division, shall have a divisional equipment pool, from which each of the councils could come there, get caterpillars, get graders, get rollers to fix their roads. There's nothing like that there. What you are showing is in Kupema Negoba, that's in Nguti. You even see them digging with their hands. There's nothing in Tombe. Tombe is worse. Because Kupema Negoba is a matter of 3 subdivisions. Tombe, zero development, 0 roads, nothing there. Nguti, which are showing right there. And of course, Banga. How will the senior division officer even get there? If he doesn't trek, you have to go to Komsamba. You have to drive to Kumba. Then Kumba and Meme, you go to Komsamba first, that is in the Mongo division, in La Republic of Cameroon. Then you go to Kumba, somewhere in Meme division, and then look for a way to go to Kupema Negoba. You park his car somewhere else and trek. Is there any senior government official who likes doing this? No. Those people who have met officials in Bangam, that's Kupema Negoba, all those other divisions in Akwaya, they didn't go to Unam to come. They went to Unam also to come out and enjoy the facilities of being senior officials. Can they be proud? Can they hit their chests? No. Their sons and daughters who live in Yaoundé, who have those offices in Yaoundé, have lied to them forever and ever. A bottle of beer is not development. A crate of beer is not development. A slice of meat with a loaf of bread, what they call boulangerie, is not development. And so we have offered them a path. Leave that thing and join us, or you will remain perpetually underdeveloped. Because our eyes are open. This is not the year, this is not the period, this is not the time that somebody should try to cut a rope with his bare hands. No. It will not happen. It has happened before. It will not happen in Ambazonia. So tighten your belts. Join us in this struggle. Let us get ourselves out. And then we'll pick the pieces from where we can find them. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Barrister. I will definitely see from the 26th to 27th, we'll definitely see what happens after the visits. We'd want to see the reaction of the people, and we'll definitely bring that update to you for another review and conversation. For now, let's move over to the Nera 10. It seems like the Supreme Court of the Cameroons has overturned a previous ruling by the Court of Appeal that upheld life sentences against Ambazonia leader Sisiku Julius Ayuktabe and 9 others, collectively known as the Nera 10, ordering that the case be reheard. The decision was delivered by the Criminal Bench of the Judicial Division, presided over by Justice Maria Louise Abomo. The court nullified the September 2020 judgment of the Center for Regional Court of Appeal, which had affirmed the August 2019 conviction handed down by the Yaoundé Military Tribunal. That earlier ruling had sentenced Ayuktabe and 9 others to life imprisonment on charges linked to the ongoing Ambazonian war. Following the Supreme Court's decision, the case is now being sent back to the Court of Appeal for a fresh hearing before a newly constituted panel of judges. Legal analysts say this effectively reopens one of the most high-profile cases tied to the country's war. Lead Defense Counsel Akeremona confirmed that the appellate court is expected to re-examine the matter in full and deliver a new judgment based on proper deliberations. While the ruling has been welcomed by supporters of the detained leaders as a step towards due process, critics have expressed skepticism about the judicial system, citing concerns over fairness and political influence in high political cases. The development comes amid heightened tension surrounding the Ambazonian issue, with observers noting that the decision could have broader implications for ongoing dialogue and the effort towards the conflict resolution. The Nera 10 case remains a focal point in the legal and political landscape, and the upcoming rehearing is expected to attract significant national and international attention. Barrister, this is a very interesting update concerning this case. Of course, Ambazonians would be expecting something that would definitely go in their favor. But as a matter of timing, Barrister, do you in any way think that this could be related to the visit of the Pope? While I would ask this in this regard is the fact that, you know, there were so many expectations. I think within the week people were asking one of the reasons for the Pope's visit, and we heard some analysts say that one could be to, you know, reserve the ongoing crisis and all of that. That could be a side, but with this timing of the rehearing of this case, what are the chances of what is happening presently? What are the dots that you are currently connecting? What is happening? Why do you think that there is a rehearing being presented as of now?
Let me say this. Let me dismiss one idea in the first place. This has nothing to do with the visit of the Pope. Today was Judgment Day. They had heard the case a few months back. When they heard the case in the Supreme Court and adjourned to today for judgment, the idea of the Pope coming to Cameroon was not yet out there. So the visit had nothing to do. Though I will tell you how the government can use the visit of the Pope to do something. But as far as this case is concerned, it has nothing to do with the visit of the Pope. And let us understand, we're dealing with the judgment from the Supreme Court. A case goes to the Supreme Court from the Court of Appeal. The Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal are what we call courts of records. You don't go there to testify. No, you don't testify before the Supreme Court. Because your testimony is in the first court of first instance, where you told your story and it was recorded, where your lawyers point and it was all recorded. Everything is supposed to be on the records. And if the party does not like, whether it is the military court or a magistrate court or even the customary court, you appeal to the Court of Appeal. And the Court of Appeal will ask for the records for what was said in the court below. Examine what was said before the court below. Your lawyers will argue why they disagree with that, legally or factually, in the Court of Appeal. And when they disagree, when the Court of Appeal gives a judgment, it should be based on the records. Any party who doesn't like the Court of Appeal will appeal to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court will have to look at the records. What was in the Court of Appeal? On a special note, we should know that the Supreme Court is only with the law. They deal with the law, exceptionally the law. They are not dealing with the facts, whether you stole or did not steal, whether you killed or did not kill. They are not going to deal with the law. How does that mean? What does that mean, for example? If they said you killed somebody, you shot somebody dead, and you said, no, I didn't kill the person, that's your defense. When the hunting spree, then I found him lying down, I don't know who wounded him. They said, no, you went to the hunting with him. Or it is the accusation you raped this woman, for example. And the man said, no, I was just pretending, I was just playing with her. Those are the facts. The court will look at whether that you are simply touching the woman doing this for amount of rape. What the law talks about rape, for example. So the Supreme Court deals with the law. And now the court has been sent back to the Court of Appeal with special instructions. What are the instructions? You should constitute a panel. In the court, in the instance, it was a military tribunal. There was no one judge there. Maybe some assessors. Waiting goes on the court of 3 judges. That's the panel. And so now the Supreme Court take this thing back to the Court of Appeal and reconstitute a new panel of judges. And then the Supreme Court has found where the Court of Appeal, they did not add some legal issues that were raised in the appeal. For example, the people who were in the military tribunal, what they raised was that the military tribunal could not try them, because the law says that if you are not a military guy, you cannot be tried in the military tribunal. That's the law saying that. And the guys are saying we are not military people. The law prevents you from trying us. They raised this issue there. If the court had to try them, the court had to give a reason why that law did not apply to them. And if the people appeal, for example, to the Court of Appeal, the Court of Appeal must look at that ground. The people said they are not military people, you cannot try them here. What did the court say in giving judgment on that aspect of the law? If the court just left it out, the court did not address that issue that they were supposed to address. The Court of Appeal should have said, look, these guys said they were not military guys. It's a legal issue, this is the law. If you wanted to deviate from it, you must write it down. Why you think that these guys have said this and you must try them. So when it goes on record to the Court of Appeal, the court will say, yes, this is what they just said. Was he right or wrong? When it goes to the Supreme Court, the court will say, okay, this is what they just said. This is what the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal said. Was it legally right or wrong? And so they simply say that they don't want to sit there and do the work of the Court of Appeal. The case came to them. They were supposed to look at all the legal implications that were raised in the court below and rule on them. I'm just giving one example. The other example is that they said, look, we're in Nigeria. You could not come and catch us and bring us overnight here without an extradition agreement. That's the legal thing. The law governing refugees abroad is legal, is the law. What did the court, what did the tribunal say about that? Because they raised it down there. It is simply without addressing it. The Supreme Court will say, look, these people raised this law, and then the thing came on appeal. You, the judges of the Court of Appeal, you should have looked at this point these people said, whether they were right, legally right or wrong. If you didn't do it, you have to do the job again. We will not sit there and do the case. And so that's what it means. But by implication, it means a lot. Because, you see, from the court, from the military tribunal, it took a very short time, that was 2019 or so, to the Court of Appeal, 2020. From the Court of Appeal in 2020 to the Supreme Court, 2026. That's already 6 years. Those things take time. And so this is delaying. The people who are accused are in prison saving time, where at the end of the day they might win. The court might come and say, look, well, the issues you raised were very important. And so this is where we stand. Because they can, when the Court of Appeal rules on that thing, when they look at when they constitute a new panel and rule the way they rule, if the Nera 10 are not satisfied, they still have the right to appeal to the Supreme Court. If the prosecutor does not like the ruling of the court, they still have to appeal to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court will now look at the whole file and say, okay, well, say this thing should be looked at. You looked at this law and you said this, you said this, you said this. Here you were wrong or here you were right. Again, it could take another 5 years to do it. So it takes a lot of time. And then you ask whether it could be the Pope's visit could have any influence over it. Legally, it does not have, but politically, it could. Because the Pope comes, and we have seen all these things on social media and different forums for us in Cameroon, calling on Mr. Paul Biya to show some magnanimity, to show the Pope that he's a good guy, by releasing detainees, imprisoned people, not just Nera 10. They include people that they were caught during the elections. They put that they were caught during 2018, even during Campto's presidential bid. And so, if the president wants to show that man and his humanity towards the Pope, because the Pope is coming, we are releasing everybody, including the Nera 10. That's how the Pope's visit might be. That is just, but that's not legal. That's not illegal. That's just because you can as well come there if you decide to show magnanimity, release some people and leave others. And so that's what the case is all about. And then again, it is a criminal case. The big problem is people are saving time. But the legal problem is the court below sentenced you to life. In other words, you're supposed to remain in prison until you die. Legally, that's what it means. If you're supposed to remain in prison until you die, legally, there's no need to hurry by it because it could take 10 years. You're not going to die in 10 years. But that's not where we are. But what does it mean to Nera 10? Speaking as an Ambazonian, I think this is very, very positive for them. Because it shows that their arguments all along, from the military tribunal to the Supreme Court, have value. They have legal value. They have been vindicated. That their arguments could be useful. Because the Supreme Court has said, these people raised important issues that you did not address legally. Therefore, they have been detained illegally. As far as we are concerned, they are not even supposed to be there because the issues they raised did not even warrant them to be there. The issue they raised did not warrant them to be imprisoned in Yaoundé. They were in Nigeria. What law allowed Nigeria to fly across its borders, go kidnap people from there, and bring them to trial? There's no such law. And amongst other things, they charged them. I don't know why this was part of the Supreme Court charges. The court charges in the tribunal below. They said the people were not carrying identity cards. What law tells you that if you go to Lagos and you're a Cameroonian, you should be traveling with the Cameroon identity card on your back? And if you're not traveling with it, what power does the government in Cameroon have to come and catch you? Does the Cameroon government have the power Nigeria to arrest a Nigerian in Yaoundé? There's no carry a Nigerian identity card. No. You don't, because identity for local use. What was our identity? You don't need tickets to and go to Germany. You don't go and fly to Japan with the passport. And so charge you with the Nera hotel drinking a beer for not having a Cameroon identity card. So it is so flawed at law. And so as Ambazonia is concerned, there's vindication that they are legal founding. They are legally founded. And we can all hope and pray that when the thing goes back to the Court of Appeal, they will come back with a different ruling, which in very stretch of imagination will favor the Nera 10. If they didn't have that type of strength, that power legally, the Supreme Court will not do what it did. Over to you.
Barrister, before we let you get into the next report that we have, are you saying that at the end of the day, this, because it's a political issue, do you think that the trickiness of this is probably to, get the interest of Ambazonians and probably release a few people, not even releasing all? Are you saying that this is still very much political, not necessarily seeking an end to this? Is that what you're saying?
Well, you've said it all. This was and is still a political case. It's politics. But political case must follow some legal rules. And since it's political, politicians have the way to solve the problem if they so wish. In Cameroon, for example, the president has the power to stop prosecution of any case at any time. They can come to you and say, order that the thing should be abandoned, you abandon it. Because it's a political case. This is the political king of the territory. And so there's no doubt that it's a political case. There's no doubt that all these rulings from the military tribunal to the Court of Appeal have political connotations. There's no doubt about that. One will ask, how could a court legally constituted not address those legal issues that were raised? The only reason I can give is that they were political. They simply ignored it to please the political masters who appointed them. Otherwise, if they went to go and say, look, we're not supposed to be here in this military tribunal because we're civilians, the court was duty bound to write why they must be there legally. If they came there and said, look, we are not supposed to be here because we're in Nigeria, you brought us here illegally, to address where their addiction or abduction from Nigeria being brought to Yaoundé was legal or not. That's how the law works. It is a political issue. There are so many problems that are happening in Cameroon. We can only wish that the coming of the president will use his political strength, the political wisdom that he has, to solve this particular problem along with this political malaise. That includes thousands of people, hundreds of people who have been caught and detained without even trial since the last presidential elections. And so that's what I'm saying. I wonder if that explanation is sufficient.
Very well, Barrister. It is, and of course, we would continue to see what the next briefing will be once the case has, has come up again. But then, before we let you go, Barrister, we have this very sad report from Santa that says at least 4 people are feared dead following a devastating road accident at mile 8 Akelman Tantan on this morning. According to eyewitness reports that the accident occurred when a truck suffered brake failure and rammed into multiple vehicles, resulting in significant destruction and casualties. Several others are believed to have sustained injuries through the exact number, and all of the exact numbers have not officially been confirmed as of the time of this report. Local residents described the scene as chaotic, with emergency responders and bystanders rushing to assist victims trapped in the wreckage. The clash adds to a growing list of fatal road incidents in Ambazonia, where concerns over vehicle maintenance, road conditions, and enforcement of safety regulations persist beyond the immediate tragedy. The incident has reignited broader concerns about insecurity and the fragility of daily life in the Cameroons in total, particularly in Ambazonia. These areas have for years been impacted by ongoing clashes linked to the Ambazonian War of Independence, exposing civilians to multiple risks ranging from armed violence to limited access to health care and emergency services. Residents say such conditions compound the dangers posed by everyday hazards like road travel. While some community voices express deep frustration over what they describe as a decline in safety standards and accountability, analysts caution against generalization, noting that the challenges stem from a complex mix of war, economic hardship, and institutional strain. Authorities have yet to release an official statement on the accident. However, calls are growing for stricter road safety enforcement, improved vehicle inspections, and urgent measures to prevent similar tragedies. As families mourn the victims, this death underscores the urgent need for both immediate and long-term intervention to protect civilians' life in the Cameroons. Barrister, I know that you see things like accidents can happen everywhere, but there is what road worthiness can do. When you have the right agencies, situated at strategic locations, supervising cars that are roadworthy. A mere look at the truck would show that it was going to fail break anytime soon. If it didn't happen today, according to the report, it was still going to happen some other time. And so all of these would be able to come in place if there is a healthy government that takes care of the people the way it ought to. I mean, take a look at that vehicle, that truck. It's already gone. And it's only as it has taken the lives of people that it will be looked into. I mean, just take a look at it. It's really sad. Then while you're looking at that, you take a look at the environment, the roads. So as bad as the trucks would be, the roads would not even help. Imagine the road where people are passing. Imagine the roads where people have to go through to survive every day. Not towed, not done, mere road. When it rains, they struggle with the mud. When it's dry, they struggle with the dust. Whichever is the case, there is a struggle. And this is a life a people are living, not so certain of when all of this struggle would be over. What would you say about this, Barrister?
Well, what I would say is this. You see, most of the accidents, an accident can happen anywhere, but most of the accidents that happen in Cameroon, in general, and in Ambazonia in particular, are preventable. The accidents that should never have happened, but they do happen. First, as you rightly said, the vehicles are not plying on roads. They are plying on no road at all. From what you see right there, is that even what you can call a road? There is not a road. But it's not strange, because that thing has plied into other vehicles standing there. In other words, there are so many vehicles standing there using that thing they call a road, which is not a road. So there must be a good road in the first place if you want to avoid accidents. A good road is not just the surface. It includes road signs, speed limit. These things are not available in Cameroon, talk less of in Ambazonia. Then the state of the vehicles. Most of the vehicles are not roadworthy. None. You see, since we join these people, there's an office that used to exist in southern Cameroon, which has virtually disappeared. It has never been mentioned anymore. They call it the VIO, the Vehicle Inspections Officer. He did not sit in an office. There was an office where the people sat. But the people from that office did not sit there waiting for it to come. They were on the highway. They stopped their vehicle at any time and checked to be sure that it was roadworthy. If it was not roadworthy, it's still there. They put a stamp there, paste something there off the road. That vehicle will stand there until they tow it and go and have it repaired. Put the brakes or whatever thing is short, it's not available. They must do that. And so there's no vehicle inspection officer. People can go to anywhere, buy documents and claim their vehicles to be roadworthy. They are not roadworthy. Nobody's enforcing it. And I've said this many times before. All these accidents that are happening, call it in Bafusa, call it in Bamenda, or Boya. The courts are there. Have you ever seen anybody charged in court for reckless driving a driver? No. Is anybody charged in court for driving a vehicle that's not roadworthy? No. But they are driving recklessly every day. They are driving vehicles that are not roadworthy. And what's the control? It will stop you and claim that you're not roadworthy just by looking at documents. All I need to do is to put 5,000 or 500 in the dossier and you go away. You buy your roadworthiness with money, whereas the vehicle is not roadworthy. It will hit somebody. The brakes will go off, and you either die with the vehicle or you kill other people, or both the people who are on the way, and yourself in the vehicle, both of you, all of you will die. And so this is unfortunate. This is what we are fighting to return to. As soon as we get back to Ambazonia, as far as roads are concerned, roads will be sufficiently roadworthy. There will be road signs. I've always asked, when you drive, for example, from Bamenda town to Bambili, it's a very long piece of road, but there are so many schools there. Have you ever seen any sign, a road sign there, children crossing? School sign, that shows that children are crossing. Nothing. And so vehicles will hit the children and go away. How much does it cost to put that sign there? Almost nothing. We're talking about the council. It's always above the council to put those road signs on the road to prevent vehicles speeding at a certain time. To say this place, you run only 10 kilometers an hour because the population is there. You run only 14 or 15 kilometers an hour because the road is so bending and winding that you can go up the road. There's nothing like that. And that's again one of the reasons why we fight. If we must own a country, it must be a country where people can live safely, where people can drive safely, people can go and come without the risk of dying. People can buy vehicles that are sure to take them to their destination and bring them back. And so that is why we fight again. The VRO office will return. The officers will be put there to patrol the roads, to hold vehicles not roadworthy accountable. They will put off the road, and they will stay off the road until whatever thing is wrong with the vehicle is repaired and certified by the appropriate government garage. That's all I can say about that.
All right, thank you so much, Barrister. So sorry that we are ending the home front reports tonight from a very sad end, but that's just a little of what the people go through on a regular basis, and it's just a little percentage of it is even brought to light. We hope that things will definitely get better. Well, Barrister, this is the juncture where I let you go, hoping that over the weekend we'll definitely have another time with you. Thank you so much for being part of tonight's Undaunted.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And right when we return from the break, we'll head into news from Africa, where the DR Congo and Rwanda agree on new steps to ease tensions after Washington talks. The Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda have agreed to take concrete steps to ease tensions and push forward a fragile peace process following talks held in Washington, D.C. on the 17th and 18th of March 2026. According to a joint statement released alongside the United States, the discussions come despite ongoing war in eastern Congo, where the M23 armed groups continues to control key cities. The resurgence of fighting has persisted even after a peace agreement broke out last year under U.S. President Donald Trump. In the joint statement, representatives from both countries reaffirmed their commitment to implementing last year's accord, signaling a renewed willingness to de-escalate hostilities and rebuild trust, although specific actions were not fully outlined. The agreement points towards security cooperation, confidence building, and measures and efforts to stabilize the volatile broader region. Eastern DRC remains one of Africa's most conflict-affected nations, driven in part by competition over vast mineral resources and long-standing political tension. The presence of armed groups such as M23 has worsened the humanitarian crisis, displacing large numbers of civilians. The United States, which hosted the talks, continues to play a mediating role in efforts to stabilize the Great Lakes region. While the leaders' agreement offers caution hope, analysts say its success will depend on whether both sides follow through on their commitments. The coming weeks are expected to be critical in determining whether the renewed diplomatic efforts can translate into meaningful progress on the ground. Regional observers say neighboring countries and international organizations are likely to closely monitor implementation of the agreement, particularly any changes in military activity around contested areas. Previous ceasefire arrangements have often broken down due to lack of enforcement and mutual distrust, raising concerns about whether these latest efforts can achieve lasting results. Humanitarian agencies have also urged both governments to prioritize civilian protection and allow greater access for aid delivery in conflict-affected zones. With thousands of families still displaced and living in precarious conditions, the success of the renewed peace efforts will be measured not only by political stability but also by improvements in lives of those not affected by the war. When we return right after the break, we'll head into the globe, where U.S. judge orders Trump's administration to reopen Voice of America. A U.S. federal judge has ruled that the effective shutdown of the government-funded international broadcaster Voice of America was unlawful, ordering authorities to restore operations within a week and reinstate hundreds of journalists. In a strongly worded decision, District Court Judge Royce Lambert said the closure violated federal law and undermined the broadcaster's congressional mandated role Voice of America, established during World War II to counter propaganda from Nazi Germany, has since evolved into a major international news outlet, providing coverage in dozens of languages worldwide. The ruling comes after former President Donald Trump issued an executive order after returning to office last year, directing that Voice of America be shut down. His administration argued the outlet had demonstrated political bias, accusing it of promoting left-leaning viewpoints inconsistent with its mission. The executive order also targeted other US-funded international broadcasters, including Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, and Radio Free Asia, instructing that they be reduced or eliminated to maximum extent consistent with applicable law. Judge Lambert, however, rejected the administration's justification, emphasizing the Voice of America's existence and editorial independence are protected by statute. He noted that smartly the broadcasters without congressional approval exceeded executive authority and risked damaging U.S. credibility abroad, particularly in areas where independent journalism is limited. Media advocates and press freedom organizations welcomed the decision, describing it as a critical safeguard for public-funded journalism and a rebuke of political interference in editorial operations. They warned that the shutdown had already disrupted global access to reliable information, especially in countries with restricted media environments. It remains unclear whether the administration will comply with the ruling or seek an appeal. Legal experts say the case could escalate into a broader constitutional battle over the limits of presidential power and the independence of federally funded media institutions. If enforced, the court order would mark a rapid revival of Voice of America's global broadcasting network and the return of its displaced workforce, restoring a key pillar of U.S. international media outreach. That's it for tonight's Undaunted. But before we go, let's take a look at the news that made it to tonight's headlines. Tonight on Undaunted, we told you that poverty and drive-shaken fake kidnapping scheme in Ambazonia. Also, residents of Nguti decry years of neglect ahead of administrative visits. Supreme Court quashes appeal court verdict against Nera 10, orders fresh hearing. Also, 4 fear dead in Vito Road accident in Santa as safety concerns mount in the Cameroons. DR Congo and Rwanda agree on new steps to ease tensions after Washington talks. Also, U.S. judge orders Trump administration to reopen Voice of America. That's it for tonight's Undaunted. Bringing to the news Untold Stories. On behalf of Barrister Mbeseha and a team of technicians behind tonight's production is good night and God bless.